Hi, I'm Scott Flowers with Cloud Ninjas. Today we're going to be hitting the AI GPU servers and we're going to be focused on Supermicro SYS-821GE-TNHR. Let's get going. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by today to learn a little bit more about the Supermicro SYS-821GE-TNHR. Do us a favor, if you find anything that helps in this video, click that like, smash that subscribe. Well, we decided to come out to the warehouse today to show you a little bit of the inventory while we were doing this video. Plus, this is a heavy son of a gun here, and putting this onto our normal table for all the marketing videos is not going to work for this. We could put it onto our lab tables, but I didn't want to interrupt the operations today, so we were like, you know what, let's just go out in the warehouse. We'll show you some of the other stuff we have in stock so that you can just see that, you know, we do carry a lot of inventory, and would love the opportunity to earn your business for GPU servers, for Ryzen's, for Epics, for any of the Intel products you might need. So anyhow, that being said, let's go ahead and hop in. This video is going to be focused on hardware as a whole. We're going to go over the compatible CPUs, RAM, drives, network cards, and most importantly, the GPUs. So let's go ahead and hop on all the good stuff. All right, well, let's start with the CPUs. So there are two CPUs inside. It's an LGA 4677 socket. So that means it takes Intel Xeon 4th and 5th gen scalable processors. People ask us all the time, hey, you know, what CPUs do you recommend? Well, really, it's not what CPUs do we recommend, it's what CPUs does NVIDIA recommend. So NVIDIA actually has a recommended spec for everything, literally the CPUs, how much RAM you should put in, the drives, the network cards you should use, and of course you can, you know, tailor it a bit, but they've done all the heavy lifting for you, and they've come out and said, hey, here's what we recommend. So with a little drum roll, it will be very light drum roll because this is an expensive server. What CPUs does NVIDIA recommend? All right, let's talk about memory. It takes DDR5 memory. There are 32 DIMM slots inside. There are 2 DIMMs per memory channel, and this is important because this is going to affect your speeds. And well, what speeds can it take? Well, you can do 4800 or 5600. Those are the real 2 DIMMs that you're going to put in, but it might not technically operate at those speeds. So how do you know what speeds it's going to operate at? Well, that's going to depend on what processor you have and how many DIMMs per channel you're putting your modules in. So let me explain a little bit further. So if you're using a 4th gen scalable processor, the max that you can get is 4800, and that's if you're only putting 1 DIMM per channel. Now, if you go to 2 DIMMs per channel, it's going to clock down to 4400, okay? So the max will be 4400 for 2 DIMMs per channel. Now, with the 5th gen scalable proc, you can get up to 5600 for 1 DIMM per channel, but it'll go back down to 4400, same as the 4800 speed ones, if you are doing 2 DIMMs per channel, right? So there's no real advantage if you're doing 2 DIMMs per channel and, you know, getting a faster speed because it's going to clock down anyways. And, you know, if you're using a 5600 speed, you know, with a 4th gen scalable, it'll clock down anyway, so really kind of no point in pairing them up. So really, if you're using a 4th gen scalable, you probably should go with the 4800 speed, and if you're using the 5th gen scalable, you probably should go with the 5600 speed if you're doing 1 DIMM per channel. So that was a mouthful. I hope that made a lot of sense, and we'll have a little chart here that'll hopefully make it a little bit more simpler than what I just said. All right, let's talk about sizes. So you can go as low as a 64 gig, a 96 gig, 128 gig, or all the way up to 256 gigabyte per module, which means you can actually get in 8 terabytes of RAM into this box. But do you want to? And that's the real question is, we go back to what does NVIDIA recommend? So for the H100 and H200 configurations, they're going to recommend 2 terabytes of RAM. That's what NVIDIA is going to recommend, and that's what we're going to recommend as well. So when you go to purchase this, you're probably going to look at the 2 TB recommended configuration from NVIDIA. Now, if you go up to the B200, which is popular right now, and we'll be doing some videos on that here in the near future, then it might be 2.3 terabytes or up to 3 terabytes, but those are kind of the recommended configurations. And again, NVIDIA has done all this research, so let's lean into what NVIDIA knows, and 2 terabytes will be what you want to use for this machine. All right, let's talk about drives. So there are 2 types of chassis that you can essentially use, and most people are using the first default option. So the default option is going to be 15 drive bays in the front. That's going to be 12 NVMe and 3 SATA, but you can get a secondary option where you add in 4 extra NVMe to the front, so it'll be a 19 bay or a 15 bay, so those are the 2 options. Now there's also 2 M.2s on board. So before we get into what types of drives you can use and what are the max speeds and sizes and all that good stuff, let's go back to what I keep highlighting here. What is NVIDIA's recommended configuration? So NVIDIA recommends for this chassis to have 2 960 gigs, and these are essentially just going to be your OS drives, and that can be either the M.2s or using the U.2 or U.3 in the front, and 4 3.84 TB. And again, those are going to be NVMe. And most of this is really just for storing your logs, and pretty much that's primarily what it's going to be used for. Now you can add in more NVMe's, and most people aren't taking away and and removing them, but you can add some extra. But again, that's the recommended configuration, and that is the bulk of what people are using out there. All right, so what types of drives can I use? Well, technically there's 5 types of drives you can use. You can use an NVMe SSD, a SATA SSD, a SAS SSD, a SATA hard drive, or a SAS hard drive. Now, for those options, I don't really know why anyone would ever use them. NVMe SSD is the clear winner here. NVMe SSDs are right now cheaper, they're better performing, they're faster, they're essentially just the way to go. Now, technically these other ones are options, so we'll throw up a chart that's going to show you the different max sizes and speeds, but really all we're going to talk about is NVMe because that's what you should be using, right? So for NVMe, you can use PCIe 5.0, so that will be your speed, and you can get up to, according to Supermicro's spec sheet, 30 terabytes. We've played around and seen some folks that are throwing in 61 terabyte drives. I've seen some people saying they've done 122. We haven't actually thrown them in, but if you have, hey, drop a comment down below. Would love to hear it. But those are the max sizes and speeds. And again, NVMe is a clear winner. So we highlighted the fact you can use the others, but again, why would you? And circling back to the M.2s, there's 2 M.2s on board. They are PCIe 3.0. You can use NVMe or SATA technically, again, NVMe, and you can use 22.110 or 2280, so both links are fine. And the max, according to Supermicro spec sheet, is 3.84 TB. All right, so let's talk about RAID. We're just going to throw up a quick chart of approved RAID controllers. You'll see the different specs on there, and you can pick and choose what you want. Most of you are probably just going to use software RAID, and that's going to work perfectly fine. But if the data that you're using is very, very sensitive and you are very concerned, you can use any of these RAID controllers that are on here, and they will work just fine for you. All right, that brings us to GPUs. If you're using this box, you're going to be using H100 or H200. There's going to be 8 of them inside with an HGX form factor, which essentially means they're not going to be individual PCIe cards. It's going to be one base board that's going to essentially have everything on it. It's all going to be linked up so they can work together, which is incredibly important. And that is going to be the two GPUs you can use. Now we have specs listed up here for you. The big difference is going to be the RAM. You're going to get 80 gigabytes with the H100s, and you're going to get 141 with the H200. So it's a pretty nice bump from the memory standpoint going to the H200s. At this point in time, you can't even buy the H100s brand new. Those are EOL. They're actually starting to come out on the used side, so we're actually starting to get some of the used ones in. So if you're actually interested in used A100s or used H100s, definitely email us at sales@cloudninjas.com, or if you're even interested in selling them, contact us as well. That is something that we are heavily interested in, and something that we're starting to do more and more of right now, because these boxes are finally starting to come back out. Right now, what's heavily being used is going to be B200s and H200s, and B300s are right around the corner right now. And so B300s are essentially going to be coming out in the next couple of months here. So all that being said, this is still an amazing box. The H100s and the H200s are still very, very powerful machines. So depending on what you need, you might not need the latest and greatest, and you might be able to actually buy one of these used and save $100,000, and that would be a great investment, right? So that being said, if you are looking for any GPU servers at all, even if it's the newest stuff, the B200s or the B300s that are coming out, please email us at sales@cloudninjas.com. All right, let's talk about the network cards. So we'll throw up a chart right now that's going to just show you all the different compatible interfaces, the different speeds you can use, and all the different PCIe slots and options as well. But really, let's just, again, hop into what does NVIDIA recommend. So what most people are doing is using 8 400 gigabit cards, and each one of those cards is going to be connected to a port that's connected to your GPUs, so you can kind of almost think of it as one 400 gig card per GPU. And then you're going to need a network card for just your general, back-end networking, and that's going to be, some people are using a 25 gig card, and they'll team the two ports together so that they can get 50 gigabit altogether, and then when they do that, they can save a little bit of money and not have to buy a switch that's for 100 gigabit, but either people are using the 25 or the 100 for their back-end networking. That's pretty common. And the last card that you're going to need is going to be for your storage, if you need storage. And so what most people are doing for the storage is a 200 gigabit card. So essentially, the recommended configuration again will be 8 400 gigabits, one card that's a 25 or 100 for your backend networking, and then one card for your storage. If you need it, that's 200 gigabits. So those are your recommended storage. And again, we have up a chart that just shows you, all the compatible interfaces and speeds and all that good stuff. But what does NVIDIA recommend? Lean into that. All right, that brings us to power supplies. So there are 6 3,000 watt power supplies. You heard that right, 6 3,000 watt power supplies for this box. Any of these new AI GPU machines are very power hungry, so it shouldn't be too surprising to hear 6 3,000 watt power supplies, but that is what will be required. So what we'll do is actually get some information for you, and we'll throw it up on how much power will your rack need just to power one of these. All right, last but not least, supported operating systems. So Windows Server is always, a popular one, but for these, 90% of people are using Linux, and specifically Ubuntu. So here's all the options. We've listed them up here, but again, most people are using the latest and greatest for Ubuntu, which is 22, or the 24, I think actually just came out. So. Well, hey, if you made it this far, click that like and smash that subscribe. And if you're looking for any GPU servers or any servers at all, maybe you have another side of the business that just uses regular old dedicated servers that you need AMD Ryzen's or AMD Epics, we would sure love the opportunity to earn your data center's business. Please email us at sales@cloudninja.com. That's sales@cloudninja.com. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Take care.